Hi guys, Scott Patrizi here from Huntsman Exploration. We're a nickel explorer located in Western Australia. We also have some gold projects over in America, and we're here to talk to you today about our projects. We reckon we've got a really good pipeline of workflow coming up. It's an exciting time for the company, and it's time to get busy and talk about it.
Scott, good to meet you, mate. First time we've met or spoken, so we're really keen to hear this story. It's a little one. You guys, how long have you guys been around in this current formation?
So Huntsman's been around for a while. It's had a number of iterations. It was previously a lithium company, and that didn't work out too well for the guys. I took over the reins in May of last year, and just been sort of tweaking a few things corporately, redefining the strategy. And so that's been the background. You know, what attracted me to the project is, you know, we've got some really great nickel results. It looks like we're trying to define a new district in Western Australia for nickel. The gold's great as well, but you know, you don't get these sort of results often in WA in terms of nickel. A number of the guys that are comparable to us in Australia are trading at much higher multiples. So look, that's what attracted me to it. I got on board, and here we are.
Brilliant. Well, look, we'll talk about nickel in the project in a sec. I'm kind of interested in, you've been in since May. Previous iterations haven't kind of worked out with lithium and otherwise.
Yep.
Nickel. So who introduced this asset to the company? When did that happen?
So that was before my time. That came about through a local group called Trafalgar. They're the original vendors of the project. They quite prolific, like they're quite prolific through the West Australia region for pegging, you know, prospective tenements. They're actually very close to the De Grey gold discovery up north now. That's where they've been focusing their attention. But that's where it came from. It sits really close to a large vanadium mine. It wasn't really looked at for nickel. The guys thought, yeah, let's throw a rig on it and have a crack at it. And we got some fantastic results, and it sort of led from there. My previous the guy I succeeded, Peter Dickey, he did a great job. Ran that first program through in 2018, where they had some great results. Unfortunately, due to the timing, the nickel market wasn't quite there. The budget wasn't there. They weren't able to follow those results up as quickly as they would have liked. And then sort of 2020, the end of 2020, they hit the ground again, got some fantastic results at depth. And then sort of I came in on the tail end of that.
Okay, and what's it actually cost the company? So they vended it in. What do they get in return?
Oh, so they got a wedge of shares. They were remunerated. It was around $2 million worth of shares, and now they have a royalty. So I believe it's a 1.5% NSR, but that's on production. Yeah.
Okay, and you're obliged to spend what on this, or was that?
There was a commitment to spend. That those commitments have been fulfilled. So there's no commitment anymore.
Okay.
That's all done. We now own 100% of the project. So those transactions have now completed. Roughly off the top of my head, again, before my time, I think it was around $1.5 million to spend. And they shot that out of the park, really, with
right.
drilling.
Okay, and how much money have you raised since you've been there?
So since we've only completed one raising, $2 million, and that was recently, towards the tail end of 2021. And that went to predominantly Australian investors. So I've got a core group that I rely on. We sort of work out of an office here in Perth. They were the guys that largely put the money forward. They could see the prospectiveness of this project. And so we're sort of working with them in the Australian market now to try and get the Canadian listing moving. And I can talk more about the corporate strategy later, but there's more to it than that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to get there too. So I'm just, because this is the first time we've spoken or met, I'm just trying to touch upon all the kind of moving parts, kind of bring that together, and maybe we can come back in later and do a sort of more technical look at the asset or assets as well, sure. Include the US. But tell me a bit about you. What's your background?
So I was previously a broker. Then I worked with Deloitte as part of the M&A team. So I worked across a range of industries. Mining, oil and gas, the mining services, oil and gas services. So I've been around this sort of industry for a while. And then I stepped out in 2016, listed a gold company, Matador Mining. They then acquired, I was part of the team that sort of led the acquisition of the Cape Ray Gold Project. And as part of that, I transitioned to a period where we got a management team that was more technical and let them run with the project. That they're now capped at something like 50 odd mil. And that was a $5 million listing. And then from there, I sort of, in this small cap market, my role is to sort of get on the board, assist with acquisitions, assist with the corporate strategy, and then help that company grow. So I've done Elixir Petroleum. We're one of the first people to buy a coal seam gas license in Mongolia, and that company's now flying. So they're having a great result there with Neil. Recently with Caprice Resources, actually not too far from the current project. We listed in 2019 and then acquired the Island Gold Project, high-grade Island Gold Project up in the Murchison, which is about 100 kilometres from us, where we are now in Windermurra. So that's my background. Previously a broker, more the corporate side, really into sort of assisting companies build a strategy, build the team around that strategy and the project, and move it forward. Yeah,
we've had Elixir on a couple of times actually, for as recently as a couple of weeks ago.
I was on the board of that.
Yeah. Quite like that story. With regards to this project, though, who are the guys who are assisting you technically here? Who have you brought on board? What have they done? What success have they had?
So Nathan Tribble, he's our technical lead over in Canada. Nathan's a really good geologist. He is currently running Gatling Gold, so that's now currently sitting about 1 million plus ounces, I believe, from their last update. Great exploration geologist. So understands risk reward, and he's been sort of really integral in terms of defining what the new work program is going to look like. From a technical perspective on the ground, we actually outsourced that to a group called New Exco. New Exco are probably the go-to guys for nickel exploration in Western Australia, or Australia for that matter. If you were to name a major discovery in Australia, they'd have a part of it at some point. From a technical perspective, in terms of assisting in those discoveries, like the biggest one would have been the Nova Bollinger discovery, which is to the south of Perth. That was a massive discovery. Multi-billion-dollar company came out of it, took over by IGO, and they were very important in that discovery. So the gentleman there is Nicholas Walker. So he's my go-to guy. He's actually on site at the moment. So they're well and truly across the project.
Okay, so given the focus is on the nickel, and
definitely the nickel at this point.
Yeah, right. Okay, it's early days. You've raised just over $2 million. To move this thing forward, your focus has got to be on nickel, and you've got a couple of projects in the US, gold and silver, which for now, sort of taking a back seat, it makes sense, right? But your model here is to outsource to Alexico in this case, but that's worked for you in the past, and that you're just copying that same model. Is that what we're buying into? Because I think it could be just you sitting by yourself here, and the other guys don't do anything meaningful.
No. So for the time being, at the moment, right? For the time being, what we've had to do, given the tight labour market in WA, exploration geologists, like the market's booming, right? They're hard to find in terms of your own guy that's sitting next to you. They're hard to find. New Exco know the project well, like very well. They've completed the last 3 programs on it. Nick has been involved in that project the last 3 times. I speak to him almost daily. So I'm not worried about using him, but at some point that the company does need to bring that technical expertise in-house. It's the same thing that happened with Caprice, my previous company. There was a previous consultant involved, and they had a very good knowledge of the project. But then eventually I grabbed Chris. Chris came in, the gentleman who I put into Caprice, and we took control, we took ownership of the project. And that's what will happen here. You got to get the right guy.
Right. Okay. And I'm just trying to understand it, because small companies have slightly different sets of problems and challenges to bigger companies, starting with cash constraints and the ability to find the right people and having to pay them. So the New Exco guys are here for now because it's fit for purpose for now. What have you briefed them to do?
And they're very good.
And they're very good, right? Yeah, we've talked about them on our battery show on occasion that we have every week. So we know them, right? And we understand the makeup of the nickel, re-emerging nickel scene in Western Australia too. So all good. But I'm trying to again work out as an investor or a new investor what I'm buying into with you. So that's the model for now. So what have you briefed them to do, and what's the point at which you say, do you know what? Now's the time to bring in our guys. Is that Market cap, is that we need more money first? Is it we need a big find? I mean, what's the criteria by which you're judging them or challenging them?
At the moment, the exploration strategy is quite simple, right? We have a very good idea of what this ore body potentially does. Now it's about taking more risk for more reward, right? So at the moment, all we need to do is step out, probably. So previously, we did small step outs. We didn't really take much risk. Now we just need to, because the ore body basically runs like this, right? We previously stepped out here. We want to come down here. We know what the model is. We know what technology we can use with the downhole EM. So, we have a plan. We'll execute that plan, this program, which is due to commence mid-Feb. And then from there, we'll reevaluate what we do in terms of the project and how we approach it. But, obviously, you're only as good as your last success. So this program will drive a lot of that strategy going forward. And should we have a lot of success, then we'll 100% get an in-house geologist.
Right. And talk to me about, what's been going on since, probably the beginning of 2021. Because there, the first quarter, there was some, drill announcements and, as you say, nice high-grade numbers in there. And then it kind of went quiet. I know you got appointed in May. Not a lot of communication with the market, between then and now, apart from, you obviously raised the $2.1 million bucks in there. What was that quiet period? What were you guys doing in that period? So
during that period, I had to basically take a back step and look at a lot of the previous legal agreements, try and sort them out. We needed some headroom to some of the corporate strategy which we wanted to pursue, like potential ASX listings, and a lot of that revolved around talking with the major shareholders for the gold. So it's all been sort of a bit of moving parts, and we ended up getting that sorted with the guys from Liberty. They gave us a bit of breathing room in terms of that $250,000 payment that needed to be made. That was US. So they gave us some breathing room. We managed to get that done. Once we got that sorted with them, with Liberty, we were able to basically then push forward with the new strategy, which was then to raise the capital. So it's very hard to raise money when that $250,000 US is going straight out the door to a third party. To a project you're not really focusing on. And so getting our investors' heads around that was tough, but we got them over the line. We sort of had a lot of technical sessions with them here in Australia, and they're now there. And so we raised that $2 million. We've actually paid the $250 now to Liberty. So that's well and truly out of the way. They gave us an extension, and the purpose of that extension in terms of there's a number of clauses within the agreement. I won't go too far into it because it's confidential, but we needed that time to deliver on the corporate strategy, which is a potential ASX listing. So we think there's a lot of value in taking this company, and that was the plan when I came in. However, as we dug deeper, I needed to sort further things out to execute that plan. But what we think is the Australian asset, being the nickel, should come down to the Australian exchange at some point, because that's where we think we'll get the true value for this project. And are you talking about dual listing or just coming off of TSX-V and onto the ASX? So it'll be a dual listing, most likely. Got it. That's quite expensive for a small company. So obviously you need things to get motoring. It's not too bad. So we have some really good lawyers here that have done it recently with the likes of Ben's. Ben's Mining, who are dual listed. They're a gold project. I think it's in Ontario, but they're out of the same office. So it's quite a simple process. Look, when we commit to it, it'll be done quickly. Right. Yeah. What's it cost? What's it cost these days? ASX listing fees are somewhere between 80 to 150, probably. Okay, so it's comparable to Frankfurt. It's not like AIM or TSX. No. You're talking half a million. It really isn't a difficult process. Probably the hardest part is getting the two exchanges to marry up the rules. Right. That's probably the hardest part, dealing with both, because the ASX is, I shouldn't say it, they're notoriously bad with changing rules, and the TSX is quite good. But just given from the corporate side, the ASX can be difficult. Okay. So that's what we've been doing. It's been working through that. We now think we're in a position to do that, and we need to raise the money, which lets us drill, because no one's going to put money in if you can't do any work, right? So now we're ready to work. We've got the money. We've got the program outlined. We're ready to go.
So just tell me, in terms of the 2.1 you raised, yes. I get the deferment, but you've now paid Liberty the 250, right? So that's happened. There's some G&A costs across the board, and all this admin, legal and otherwise, accounting around the kind of restructuring of the corporate structure. How much of that did you spend dealing with those matters? How much have you got left? And you got to raise some money, but I'm just sort of intrigued as to the people who put the money in back then. They knew exactly what that was being allocated to, and that basically wasn't anything in the ground. It was just getting the ship in order first, right?
Oh, we wouldn't have spent. Probably the most expensive thing was we rushed an audit through. And that was 50 grand. So call it 100. Sorting this out, because a lot of it's been through the guys at RSD Capital with Nav. He's helped out a lot in terms of dealing with the guys at Liberty, and so we've had a good team together.
Right.
We've done it, conservatively in terms of money spent. It hasn't been expensive. It's just been time consuming.
Right. And what about New Exco, for instance? I mean, what's their deal look like?
What's their
deal look like? I mean, is it a monthly retainer? I mean, have they got?
No, they charge for the work they do.
Okay.
They charge for the work they do. Yeah.
So not a lot of work so far. Is what you're saying?
No.
Okay, but there will be, right? So maybe let's look.
There will definitely be a lot of work now. Yes. So they're on site now.
Right.
They're actually setting up camps. They're doing all the rehab from the last holes and dealing with the pastoralists at the moment. He's a great guy, but they basically need to put some new roads in. Not new roads. They need to flatten out some roads to get the rig on site. But they're now fully engaged. Yeah, New Exco.
Right.
Again, a function of funding.
Right.
We didn't have the funding to go.
Got it. And so we're saying they've started because you've got the funding in place to execute their contract, which is what, a 12-month? What's the contract?
New Exco, no, they're on as needed basis. There's no contract.
Okay, fine. I'm just trying to get a sense of the kind of the fluctuations of the G&A prior to the fundraising, and then what it looks like post fundraising.
So prior to the fundraising, we ran on a smell of an oily rag. Right, we had some corporate overheads. It might have been, call it 30 grand a month, if that. A bit more with me in there, 45. So 45 a month potentially. It was really nothing. We weren't road showing because the story would have been mixed. We didn't have the clear strategy, so we really just sort of bunkered down, did our thing. Got our problems sorted, and now that we've raised the money, we're ready to go properly. We've got a marketing budget, we've got a drilling budget, we've got a corporate budget.
And I get it. So you're jogging up to the start line, ready to start the race, having got the house in order, as it were. So talk to me about future raises. I mean, what would be the timing of those? What would be the conditions under which you would raise, and what would you be looking for?
So obviously drilling's expensive. So you'd be mad not to keep your finger on the pulse. I think naturally, a raise could fit in with a potential dual listing. If we get some fantastic results, and the share price reflects what we think it should reflect, then, we might look at raising some more. It all depends on where the market goes and how the market sort of, if there's money there, right? And I think there will be, just given the nickel environment. We've had a number of corporate approaches in terms of, cornerstoning. So I think there's an appetite there. It's just a matter of how we execute on it.
Cornerstoning at this stage, really. So what data have you guys got? I mean, what do you know versus, and therefore, what do some of these cornerstone groups look for in doing a deal this early?
Oh, well, look, it's just the exploration upside of the project. They're really fantastic results. We've got a model that works. And if we can prove that to grow quickly, then you get in early, it's cheap. I think we're capped at 9 mil, roughly.
Bit
with
less.
An EV of 5? Bit less?
Yeah, 6.
So what's your EV? 5? 6?
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
It's cheap.
It's cheap, but
there's only upside.
Yeah. The nature of
what wouldn't you get in?
high levered plays like this is that, I guess you throw a few dollars at it. It's nice. But
they're backing the group.
Right, but
backing the group.
Okay, and we'll talk about that in a sec. But let's get into what you know today. So in terms of we saw some drill results and some press releases last March, and they're quite attractive. So can you just remind the audience listening to us, what that said, and obviously what you'd be looking to do in terms of the current spend and any spend this year? What would you be looking to add to that to kind of paint a picture of something which is attractive not just to Cornerstone but also the market?
Just trying to digest that question. So basically what it is in terms of what we know now, right, is we know that downhole EM is extremely effective in targeting the style of mineralization that we're after. We know that we've, every single downhole plate that has shown up that they've drilled has returned nickel mineralization. Not a meter at 1%. We're talking 12 to 14 meters, tops, at anywhere between 0.5% to 3%. Throw in the copper. We actually haven't sampled for any PGEs whatsoever. We're going back to do that now because there's elevated levels of chromium. So we know what the model is. We've narrowed down on it. We can see that there's existing, we can see there's a large, I think in the latest investor presentation, the geophysics, the 2.5 vertical derivative, you can see this big plunging anomaly. It's just, what does this project do at depth? We don't know. The only way you're going to find out is to put a big hole into it, right? Bit of science behind it, but that's the New Exco guy's job. And hopefully at depth, it thickens and the grade goes up and it gets better. And that's what we're hoping for. The other thing we can do is, so what we're planning to do is this ore body that goes like this, you drill the hole down here, along with it, and then you can use the downhole EM plates down the hole to shoot off the side to get more targets. And that's what we're planning to do. And we reckon we're going to have a really good crack at that. And I think we'll get some more plates. And we just don't know what this thing does at depth. We know there's nickel there, and there's not a lot of Australian companies at the moment that can say that. So in terms of our peers that are in a similar sort of stage and setting, they're capped at 50 to 60 mil on the ASX because they mentioned the word nickel sulfides and the market goes crazy. But for whatever reason, the Canadian market hasn't quite got that love affair with the sort of money that you can make out of nickel when you do get a great result. I don't know why, but if this project was on the Australian exchange, it'd be capped 30 to 40 mil in a heartbeat, right? And there's a disconnect, and that's what we're going to try and bridge.
Yeah. Okay. So and again, it's that whole laterite sulfide debate. Yeah.
Not laterite.
No, I know. No, I'm saying the debate. I know you're what you are. But I'm saying we talk about our weekly battery show in terms of the different nickel deposits around the world, right? And people do like a high grade, but they don't necessarily understand the kind of the money to be made with the sulfides and perhaps even some of the lower grade stuff. So it's an education process. But tell me about the drilling. Okay, I was reading about 16 holes completed for about 3,500 meters. Suggests what is the average drill length and tell us about some of the intercept length and some of the grades. So get a little bit more granular if you can on those.
I'll just make sure I get the right numbers. So we're currently down to around 350 meters.
Right.
The next program, we're drilling 5,000 meters as part of the next program, and a lot of that will focus around Tulloch. Tulloch's our main project at the moment, where we've got the better results, and we're looking probably to go down to say about 600 meters.
Okay.
At our deepest at Tulloch. So that's sort of a 200 meter extension. In terms of the hits, we've had 14 meters at 1.1% nickel, including almost 1% copper with the platinum palladium hits in it, right? And that's sort of quite not dissimilar to what Chalice have seen over in the Julimar, with the platinum palladium. That's been quite big in Australia at the moment. We've had a meter at 2.7, which is it's a bit skinny, but it's good. 4 meters at 1.3 is not bad. So there's a lot of snips. 15 meters at 1%. So there's definitely potential there. And I think our next program, what we're going to try and do is just narrow down on that potential, but not rather than sort of confirm what we already know. Let's try and find out how big this project is, right? Let's not beat around the bush. Let's not keep ourselves in jobs for the next 2 years. Let's see if this thing's a boy or a girl, right? That's what we're there for. Risk reward.
Okay.
And we're big on high risk, high reward.
Right. But with geologists, and they very quickly get a sense of what it is that they've got. They've just got to go through the process of proving it through the drill bit, right? So you're with those sorts of depths, we're probably going to be going underground if you're going to be going a little bit deeper, right? With these grades, more than good enough for an underground operation for sure. But you've got to go through the process of understanding the average grades and the contained metal, underground, and then eventually get onto the economics, obviously. But you've dropped a few names of people. It's a bit like them, and it's a bit like that. You always name the good guys, obviously. But do you think this drill program this year is going to, be able to shape your opinion about how you go about continuing to drill this thing out? Because you got to do size, you got to keep doing grade, and you got to get onto the economics relatively quickly, or walk. So, what do you think what's important in the program this year?
The important is to find probably similar sort of widths, high grade. It either needs to get wider at sort of that 1%, or it needs to get more grade. Right? That's what we're after. If we struggle to deliver on that, then we go to plan B.
Which is?
So that's the plan with this program. So plan B is well and truly underway. When's this? By the time this interview probably goes to air, we would have announced our next acquisition. So we're actually acquiring some ground in the Julimar province that's next to Chalice's multi-million ounce platinum palladium discovery. So through some connections, we've managed to secure around, 9 licenses? Just off the top of my head, I think it's 9. So the guys grab 9 licenses in the Julimar, which, it's an up-and-coming area. It was basically a virgin discovery by Chalice. It's an hour north of Perth, so it's very close. And the way we went about it is we had a very experienced geophysicist, Bill Robertson, lots of grey hair, knows what he's doing. He went through all the old gravity maps and cherry-picked some great spots for us. And we've managed to secure that ground from the guys from the vendors, Pico. And that's going to be around $3 million in script, right, give or take. Depends on where the share price is on the day. So about 39 million shares will be issued to the vendors. And we're very, very excited about that project. So, some of the projects are just north of Anglo American. We've got some ground adjacent to Rio Tinto. And there we'll definitely be chasing sort of that nickel, copper, PGE style mineralization. We've got these big stoinking gravity anomalies. We're keen to get on the ground there. So, if for whatever reason cane grass can't quite deliver, to our expectation, and keep in mind that there's a new area at cane grass that we're just now starting to explore on a northeastern limb, if you will, that we haven't run the gravity over. So the most recent site visit by New Exco have come across that. So we're due to run the geophysics there. So the moving loop, EM, which defines targets to about 250 metres. We're going to run that in late Feb. So in conjunction with the drilling, which starts mid-Feb on the main structure, which is that north-south structure. We've got this northeast one here. And if that lights up, that's quite exciting because, the northeast structure is quite linear. When you see these structures sort of shoot off, it allows for more, the more complexity means there's greater chance of things twisting and dilating and getting bigger.
So does this strategy of buying more in Australia mean that you'll offload the Nevada or Idaho projects at some point? Do you want to be focused on Australia? I get, US gives you some jurisdictional de-risking, but at the same time, it's a distraction, and Western Australia is fairly good for mining. So, is that an option for you, offloading those? I know you just acquired them.
For me, that seems like a logical step for the company. It all depends on value. But what we've got in particular in Nevada is a fantastic gold asset. It's got some great hits. It's high grade hits. It's historical. But it's in a fantastic trend. That top end trend, top mountain trend, I think it's called. Like it's a fantastic spot. Some major deposits there as well. So, we floated that to sort of see what the board thought, and the board sort of on board with that.
Yeah, but it seems like an easy one to offload because you're up around sort of near the Carlin Trend and the Cortez Trends, and we've had a few companies on here talking about extolling the virtues there and some of the big finds. But for you've got to be quite tight and conscious about how you spend your money. And if
we can't run a dual program,
exactly, right. So potentially, at some point, you may look at monetizing that in some way, shape, or form, and get focused on Western Australia. Makes sense. The other thing you said there, which was quite intriguing, which was you'd be if Plan A doesn't cut the muster, then you would quickly move on to the next thing. You're not going to try and flog a dead horse.
I'm not going to throw money at a what is a dead horse, or what's the saying? Yeah, it's just not going to happen. It's not in my blood.
Good money.
We're not here as I said, we're not here to keep ourselves in a job. We're here to make money for shareholders, and the best way we think we can do that is to quickly move on, call a spade. And if that project isn't going to deliver, then we move. Right, we move from that to the next one. That's what exploration's about. Risk reward. That's what we're going to do.
It should be. You'd be surprised. Yeah. Perhaps you wouldn't be, Scott. No, I like that.
We won't flog it. So
good. Okay. Yeah. No, I like that attitude. Well, look, I think it'd be great to stay in touch with how you're getting on, because you seem to want to move things on rapidly. So ASX and then / next fundraise would be what sort of timing? Q1, Q2? What are you looking at?
I think it'd be towards Q1, Q2. It could happen.
Okay.
Depending on how we go with the results,
Okay.
Largely dictate.
Right, but you guys are suffering a little bit in terms of getting assay results back quickly. So in terms of any drilling happening, how quickly would you expect to get this back out into the market?
Well, the benefit of the ore body that we're dealing with is sulfides. Yeah, it's very visual. So you'll know very quickly whether you're onto something. And that'll all be published. We won't sit there and hold those results. And when you get those juicy sulfidic intervals, we'll be able to see what we're onto. There are some delays, like for instance, we're currently doing the resampling for the platinum group elements, which we haven't done before. Due to that, the New Mexico guys have picked up the elevated chromite. So they're due end of Feb, early March, and hopefully we'll get them back soon. But again, the lab has already flagged delays. So that's just an unfortunate problem we have in Western Australia at the moment. We can't control it. There's certain things you can do to keep the lab happy, but everyone's in the same boat. It's just something we have to deal with and manage. Okay, well, I guess that's going to drive you the timing of any SX announcement or subsequent fundraise. So we'll look out for those. Like Scott, thanks for us run through the company. It's interesting to understand the mentality of the team around it, and also the model they employ, especially at these early stages, to kind of get the most bang for your buck. So stay in touch. Let us know how you get on. Okay. Look, thanks for having me. I'd just like to leave you and your viewers with a couple of thoughts. We're about to get very busy on this company. Drilling's imminent. I reckon we're going to get some cracking results out of Canegrass. That's just my gut feel. Obviously, with that new project acquisition as well, that's going to be a fantastic addition. I look forward to releasing something on that just to show you how excited we are about that. But yeah, look, it's going to be an exciting time for the company in 2022. 21 was quiet, but I think we're ready to turn this ship around and get things moving for shareholders and try and generate a return.